Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is Big 12 insider for ESPN, Jake Trotter, friend of the program. Jake, nice to have you on.
Over Jimmer Fredette? That's quite a prediction, right?
I know, right? Nick Emery over Jimmer Fredette and Tyler Haws.
Yeah, Jake, we're not soft here. We bring it, okay?
Hey, Jake, while we have you on the line, we obviously want to talk about Big 12 expansion or the lack thereof. What is the feeling of the average Big 12 fan right now, given what happened yesterday?
Oh, I would say mass confusion. What was the point of the last 3 months? You know, it was pretty evident, I think, about a month ago that the Big 12 was not going to expand or likely was not going to expand. David Boren was the champion of this whole process. Initially, when he called on it, there was nobody that was going to step up and fill that void. So I think there's a lot of acrimony toward the Big 12 as an institution right now, even among Big 12 fans. And I think there is some wonder about whether the Big 12 is going to survive. And I think, at least for fans in Oklahoma and Texas, I think a lot of them would like to see their schools maybe look around as we get closer to the grant of rights in 2024, 2025.
Unity and cohesion were some of the buzzwords used by David Bourne yesterday. If that's the case, why didn't they sign an extended grant of rights?
Well, I think that the simple reason is that Oklahoma and Texas would like to keep their options open, and you really can't blame them. I think when we get closer to the grant of rights expiration, Oklahoma and Texas are going to have a lot of opportunities. They want to see if the Big 12 can work long term, if it can be viable, and if they can be strong within the conference, Oklahoma and Texas. So I don't blame them for not signing an extension, but they cannot say that the Big 12 is strong without one. That's really the only thing that is going to, I think, glue the Big 12 together in the long term is whether Oklahoma and Texas sign a grant of rights. I've given no indication so far that they are willing to do that.
ESPN Big 12 insider Jake Trotter with us on BYU Sports Nation discussing the non-expansion news that happened yesterday. Let's push ahead 10 years and throw on the hypothetical hat, if you will, Jake. What will the Big 12 look like in 2026?
If I had to guess today, I would say that the odds are probably somewhat against the Big 12 surviving past the current grant of rights. Now, it's not impossible that the Big 12, makes it past then. It kind of depends on, like I said before, whether Oklahoma and Texas give the commitment. At the same time, they're going to have some opportunities, I think, that will at least cause one of those two, maybe both, to look elsewhere. So, it's not impossible that the Big 12 is around in 2026, but I think there's a very good chance that at least the conference as we know it, the current composition, could look very different 10 years from now.
It's an interesting topic because Oklahoma and Texas seem to have a little bit of a riff right now. Oklahoma wants the validation of, hey, we're in the same league as you, Texas. And then I look at, if Oklahoma, say, went to the SEC, now they're like Ole Miss and Tennessee, as opposed to being this kind of number 1.5 or number 2 or number 1 in the Big 12. And then Texas with the Longhorn Network and kind of has been the power broker in the Big 12. Why would they leave all those teams that kind of seem to do their will and bidding? So this is an interesting thing because BYU fans are sitting here thinking, well, what if some teams did leave and then there was this new conference formed and maybe BYU joins at that point? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that's why I think Oklahoma and Texas have a lot of incentive to make the Big 12 work. They're the top dogs in the league. They make all the decisions. They're actually distributing quite a bit of revenue when you factor in the Tier 3 streams they have coming in, particularly the Longhorn Network in Texas, where they get an average of $15 million a year. They still have some of their rivalries intact, including the Red River game in Dallas. So there is a lot of incentive for Oklahoma and Texas to make the Big 12 work. I think the question that they have is, can we make the Big 12 work in a way in which we're competitive with the other Power 5 conferences? And I think there's some big question as to whether that will happen or not, because you see the Big Ten Network, you see the SEC Network, and the revenue that they're about to generate from those Tier 3 revenue streams. You look at the TV deals that the SEC and the Big Ten have signed or will sign down the road. And even Bob Bowlesby has acknowledged that the Big 12, the trend lines between the Big 12 and the other conferences are not looking so great for the league. So I think the question that Texas and Oklahoma are going to have to ask is, I think they really would like to make the Big 12 work, but only if the Big 12 is strong. And I don't know if they know, and for good reason, whether the Big 12 can be strong long term, given the members that they have lost. You have Nebraska, Texas A&M, Missouri, Colorado. That's a strong conference. You take four of the top 7 members out of any league, and it's going to suffer significantly. So I think that when you look at the 2 rounds of realignment and what they've done to the Big 12, there's good reason to question the viability of the league long term.
Jake Trotter of ESPN with us. Follow him at Jake_Trotter on the Twitter machine. When Oklahoma President David Boren says, "We didn't discuss any schools individually," does he mean just on Sunday and Monday? Because that seems like an absolutely ridiculous statement.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't buy that at all. And here's the other thing too. If they didn't discuss individual schools as they suggested, how unfair is that to the schools that really put a lot of time and resources and really put themselves out there to get into the Big 12? So, I mean, I feel pretty confident in saying that they discussed, that they discussed putting, behind the scenes. I think they discussed individual members, maybe not as a group, but I know Bowlesby reached out to the president to take their temperature, as he said yesterday, on different schools, and I think they talked amongst themselves to see if there was any school that had any possibility of generating a supermajority. I know they wanted to be careful about not outright rejecting schools during the meeting where it was on the record and you could say, well, Oklahoma opposed BYU or Texas opposed. Now, they wanted to be very careful about avoiding that. And I think that's the primary reason why you didn't see individual schools discussed in that format, and also why you didn't see any votes taken.
Jake, great stuff. We appreciate the time, and we wish you the best of luck sorting through all of this non-expansion news in the coming days.
Hey, feel free to have me back on. We can talk BYU football anytime you guys want.
You got it. Thanks, Jake.